Hey there, wellness family, Peter Gordon here. Thank you for clicking on this video, which is aptly titled Mental Health and Weight Gain. Now you might be asking yourself, what do they have to do with each other? A whole lot more than you realize. I'm going to try to explain it today in as clear a fashion as I can and as quickly as I can, so bear with me here. But before I get into it, let me tell you why I'm making this video. So I had a really good conversation with a very dear friend of mine. She reached out to me and she said, Peter, I've been having this issue for the last couple months. She noticed that she's been gaining a little bit, in her words, a more fluff in her midsection. And she noticed that no matter how hard she exercises and no matter how clean she eats, it's not going away again. She seems to think it's expanding. And so I looked at her and I said, let me ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank your stress levels? And she said, I would probably rate it as a 9. And so I looked at her and I said, how long have you been feeling this way? And she said, she said very clearly, since mid to late February or into early March. And so I asked her, does this coincide with the COVID-19 pandemic? She said, absolutely. She's been super stressed out about the health of her children, herself, her elderly parents, the safety of her job. She's just been under constant stress for the entire time. And so I looked at her and I said, I think that is why you're gaining body fat in your midsection. Let me explain why. So we have a hormone called cortisol. It's an incredibly important hormone. And some people refer to it as a stress hormone. I don't like that phrase because it's more than that. It's an important hormone. And its main function is to give us energy. But it gives us energy in the right balance, right? So when we're asleep, around about 4 a.m. in the morning, cortisol should start to rise. And as it's rising, it's increasing your blood sugar. And so by around 5:30 or so, it wakes you up because your blood sugar is now elevated, you have energy. So cortisol stays high, and then by 5 p.m. it should be tapered down here, right? And so it's now lower, your energy should be lower. And then on top of that, the cells of your eyes, there's these photoreceptor cells in your eyes that should be able to pick up that it's dark outside. And then it tells the pineal gland in your brain to release melatonin so you fall asleep. That is called your circadian rhythm, right? But here's the problem. If you're constantly keyed up, or what we call in a constant fight or flight setup, where you're constantly on edge, well, the body has to deal with that stress. And in order to deal with that stress, it must produce energy. So how does it do that? It starts to overproduce cortisol. When cortisol is overproduced, it can affect bone health, it can affect digestion, it can affect hormonal balances. But one of the clear-cut signs of excess cortisol, I don't want to say clear-cut sign, but it is a big sign of excess cortisol in people, is a lower abdominal fat, right? Because as I mentioned to you, it's designed to increase blood sugar. So what happens is it just tends to build up what we call visceral fat. And what you find too, one of the signs that shows that your cortisol is dysregulated is perhaps you're tired at 2 p.m. You wake up at night, so your rhythm is completely out of whack. And another sign too is that you tend to crave sugars, right? So you can see how stress can impact cortisol, which can then impact your body's ability to drop body fat, right? So that's why your mental health is so important. And a lot of people who are, of course, many of us are experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic, and many of us are experiencing it in different ways. Some of us more stressed out than others. So it's really, really important to manage your stress levels, your mental health. Now, how do you do that? I mean, there's many things you can do. Obviously, you can talk to a therapist, a spiritual advisor. Another thing you can do is try to control and understand how your own bodies function. You can do that through as funny as it sounds, exercise. Even though she's not losing the weight, exercise is an important thing because it can relax the mind as well. But again, other things you can do, mind-body things, meditation, right? There's a great app out there called Calm. I think that's on your phone. A lot of people use that and it tends to work well from them. Just find a space that grounds you. My grounding is I live in DC, my grounding is going to a place called Rock Creek Park, and there is a really nice river running through it, and I walk, and there's just a wonderful area for me to go there and be grounded. Another thing I want to tell you guys to do is give yourself social media breaks. Give yourself news breaks. There is so much going on right now, so much thing that's keeping our anxiety levels up here, right? And we need it to be leveled out, right? So give yourself social media breaks. Give yourself breaks from news apps, right? People who constantly get you keyed up, stay away from them, right? Because I really believe that as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, the next pandemic behind it is one dealing with mental health and behavioral health issues, all right? So I hope this makes sense. Your mental health is extremely tied into your physical health. And the way it manifests itself is oftentimes in waking. That's the first sign that things aren't going right. There's a great book called The Body Keeps Score. And it talks about the connection between here and the health of here. All right, so I hope this makes sense. And take care of yourself, guys. Have a good one.